Marco Rubio just said the quiet part out loud about NATO.
And I've been a big supporter of NATO. And one of the reasons why I've been a supporter of NATO is because I believe that these basing rights give us leverage and give us flexibility and operational capability all over the world. But if NATO is just about us defending Europe if they're attacked, but them denying us basing rights when we need them, that's not a very good arrangement. That's a hard one to stay engaged in and say this is good for the United States. So all of them's going to have to be reexamined. All of it's going to have to be reexamined.
Rubio then went on to make the bold claim that without the United States, there is no NATO.
If that's what someone in Europe told you, that person's very disingenuous, because the United States has tens of thousands of troops stationed throughout that region, billions of dollars of weaponry staged throughout Europe. All of it there to defend Europe, not to defend America, to defend Europe from attack.
After WW2, we invested a gigantic amount of money to make sure that we kind of held on to our allyship that we had created. And in return, we got pretty large tariffs. And we understand why this happened. They just needed to rebuild their war-torn societies, guys. That's it here. So we're just like, hey, listen, we'll go ahead and take the hit on tariffs a little bit, right? To rebuild you guys. And now we're to the point where we need you for the moment. And then the first thing that happens here is that all of these super left-leaning, uber progressive, if you think that progressivism is a thing that exists, that is to the detriment of the United States of America, what do you think it looks like over there, guys? It's wild in Europe. Understand, I live half the year in Europe. It's crazy over there. It seems like all of these countries are just taking like these moral stances, and not actually caring at all about if we pull out of NATO, you guys think the world is safe? Bro, it's safe because we're in NATO with you.
Without the United States, there is no NATO. I mean, everyone recognizes that, including NATO. If we decided tomorrow that we were going to remove our troops from Europe, that would be the end of NATO. So they know that. And that commitment, that we haven't moved troops out of NATO. So anyone who said that's not being honest or is not, I think they're playing games.
No country was off limits for Rubio, who slammed Spain for disallowing the US to use their base and then bragged about it, leading the Secretary of State to warn that the relationship will be re-examined after the operation in Iran is complete.
I think it was very disappointing. You have this, and again, look, the president and our country will have to re-examine all of this after this operation is over. But one of the reasons why NATO is beneficial to the United States is it gives us basing rights for contingencies. It allows us to station troops and aircraft and weapons and in parts of the world that we wouldn't normally have bases.
Right,
and that
obviously.
includes in much of Europe. And to see that in a time of need, the United States has identified a grave risk to our national security and our national interests, and we needed to conduct this operation. And we have countries like Spain, a NATO member, that we are pledged to defend, denying us the use of their airspace and bragging about it, denying us the use of their bases. And there are other countries that have done that as well. And so you ask yourself, well, what is in it for the United States?
Online commentators sided with Rubio's stance, with this person saying, Rubio dropping truth bombs on NATO. America has been carrying Europe for decades. Time to re-examine everything. No more free ride, America first. Rubio's interview came after US President Donald Trump unleashed his own tirade against NATO, suggesting they may abandon the collective.
But I think a tremendous mistake was when NATO just wasn't there. They just weren't there. It's going to make a lot of money for the United States.
Bro, I said that. Like, that was, I'm telling you, I know how Trump is. I think we all know how Trump is and how he works and how he functions and all of these things here, right? So when I saw that NATO was taking like a moral or ethical stance, let's say this year, basically embodying the Western West, I knew immediately things were not going to turn out well, because now listen, guys, just because you do not like Donald Trump, all right, it doesn't mean that he still does not have the power, for the most part here, right, to just say, you know what, let's just stop dealing with you guys altogether here. You see all the bad guys at the gates that we've basically been holding back for all these decades? No more.
Because we spend hundreds of billions of dollars a year on NATO, hundreds protecting them. And we would have always been there for them. But now, based on their actions, I guess we don't have to be, do we?
Mr. President.
That sounds like a breaking story, yes, sir. Is that breaking news? I think we just have breaking news. But that's the fact. I've been saying that. Why would we be there for them if they're not there for us? They weren't there for us.
Ooh.
But despite the tough talk from the US,
From his
NATO
mouth.
allies are holding firm in their opposition to the war.
Okay.
With UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer confirming they will not be dragged into the war.
But as already been said, the backdrop to these elections is uncertain. We're facing a war on two fronts. The Ukraine war now, 4 and a bit years in, and let's salute the bravery of Ukrainians over so many years, both on the front line and the civilians, as they fight for the values that matter to us. And now the other front, the other war, which is the Iran war, which I know is causing huge concern. People look at their screens and they're worried when they see explosions, infrastructure blown up, the rhetoric that goes with it, worried about whether this is going to escalate even further. And therefore, it's really important that I reiterate where I stand and where this government stands. Because this is not our war. And we are not going to be dragged into it.
But Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, hit back, calling European leaders weak for not backing the war.
For quite some time for my European colleagues, who have shown remarkable weakness, most of them, not all, but most of them, remarkable weakness in the face of a regime that says America is the great Satan, Israel is the small Satan, right? And Europe is sort of the middle-sized Satan in between, a civilization that has to be crushed.
For those of you who do not follow like geopolitics or anything like this here, understand Keir Starmer is, for me personally, like the male version of, I would say, Ilhan Omar more so than like AOC, because I think AOC has the potential kind of to be reasoned with a little bit, but she's still going to choose the wild route. But she'll listen, if that makes any sense here, occasionally, not deeply, because she doesn't care, right? But she cares about her base and making sure that she says all the good things, right? To get them to consistently vote for her, basically, for the most part. So it doesn't surprise me that Keir Starmer is taking this like moralist stance by saying, I'm not going to help the United States of America. Why would I do that? My base doesn't like that. We're going to see where this goes here. And I know Trump has the level of petty where he will absolutely do something about it here. And I said this when this thing first started. I was like, guys, this is not going to work here. Like, you can't just tell the United States of America, you want our protection, right? Like, you want us to protect you from the big bad guys that are super close to your gates, if that makes any sense here. And then when we need to utilize your base here, specifically in Rota, no, we can't use your base as a staging ground. And then in the same breath, Keir Starmer is talking about Diego Garcia also, trying to like get rid of it, give it back to the people kind of the region so they can then give it to China. And then we no longer have Diego Garcia in this super strategic area, another staging ground for us. Guys, this is too much, bro. All right. It seems like every single one of them are saying, we need you for protection, but we're not going to do a single thing to kind of lift a finger if you're ever in need of anything. That's the energy I get from this entire exchange here. And it is not brand new, bro. This is something that we've been dealing with now for a couple of months here. I've been screaming it. Okay, this is crazy. Protect us. We're not going to help you. Just keep protecting us and keep allowing, your products to be sold in Europe for exorbitant prices so we can make sure you never get a stronghold in Europe, but let us sell our products in your country at the average market value. Oh yeah, that makes sense. Guys, listen, when people say that we have been being wrecked in trade, that's kind of what they're talking about here. I always looked at it like this here. Again, I live half the year in Europe, so occasionally I miss Butterfingers or something like that. Some like nonsense American candy, okay? I miss it. So I have to go to an American store. Guess how much one of these bars of Butterfingers costs, guys? Like $10 compared. Right, and translated about $10, guys. Guess how much your Spanish candy costs? I don't know, like 50 cents. I get it, right? Sovereign nation, do whatever you want to do, but you can't, under any circumstance, then say in the same breath, bro, I want you to keep helping us because we need it, but I'm not going to help you. This is counterproductive, and this is not something that's going to have the ability to last very long, guys. It can't.